Hi, welcome back to Concept Mastery Primary 4. Today we are going to look at time, which is 12-hour formats and 24-hour formats. Alright, so it's going to be easy lesson again. So let's look at the first part of the lesson. So how do we add the hours and the minutes? So what I will always do is, I will always put down like this. Okay, 1 hour 15 minutes plus 2 hour and 30 minutes, and then you plus them together. Alright, now some of you may want to change the hours into minutes, and then you add everything in minutes. That is also possible, but otherwise you can also do this way. So you put your working, right, and you add the minutes first, which is 45 minutes, and then later you add the hours. So you will get 3 hours and 45 minutes. Okay, now another example. You have 3 hour 5 minutes, right, 3 hour 5, and that is how you write down. Now be very careful with how you write 3 hour 5 minutes, because those of you who don't put correctly or don't write correctly, you will write something like this. Alright, 3 hour 5 minutes, and then when you add the 2 hours 40 minutes, you will make a mistake, right? You may put a 0 over here, and then your 5 minutes become 50 minutes already. Alright, so it's a bit dangerous. So if there is a single digit, which is 5 minutes, what do? You push the 5 minutes all the way to the right side. Okay, for example, let me just show you one more time. So you write 3 hours and 5 minutes, and you put the 5 minutes all the way to the right, so that there's an empty space on the left side. And then you plus 2 hour and 40 minutes. That is how you should be writing. So if there's a single digit, right, then you push it to the right, and the blank space you put a 0 there, and then you just add the minutes. So there will be 45 minutes and 5 hours. So you have 5 hours and 45 minutes. Alright, now let's go to another example. Okay, this time it's a little different. It's still the same, but you need to do something else. Like for example, you have 2 hours 15 minutes plus 2 hour 45 minutes. So you do your normal adding. You add the minutes. So 5 plus 5 is 10, carry 1, you get 60. And then 2 plus 2 is 4 hours. Now you cannot write 4 hours and 60 minutes, because you can convert the 60 minutes into 1 hour. So every time you can convert, alright, you should take out, alright, or you should change the 60 minutes into 1 hour, and then you just add 1 hour on the 4 hours. So which means that there are 5 hours and 0 minutes, or 5 hours. So if you write 4 hours and 60 minutes, that will be wrong, okay? Because you can convert the 60 into 1 hour. Alright, another example, you have 1 hour 10 minutes plus 1 hour and 55 minutes, and this is your normal adding. You add the minutes, you get 65 minutes and 2 hours. So your answer cannot be 2 hours 65 minutes. So as long as your minutes are 60 and above, you need to convert, or you need to take out hours. How many hours can you take out? I can take out 60 minutes, which is 1 hour. So if I take out 60 minutes, I will have 5 minutes left, and the 60 minutes become 1 hour, and it comes over here. So which means that I will have 3 hours and 5 minutes. So what's the lesson here? The lesson here is, if you have 60 and more, right, you need to take out 1 hour. Right, you need to convert into hours. Right. Okay, now let's look at subtraction. Alright, so you have 3 hour 20 minutes, and you minus 1 hour and 5. So remember, if it's a single digit, you have to push it all the way to the right. Alright, otherwise it becomes 50. Right, so push the single digit all the way to the right, and then you can subtract. And whatever blank space you see, you add a 0 there. Alright, and then you subtract the minutes, so you borrow, and then you land. So that will be 15 minutes, and then 3 minus 1 is 2 hours. So you have 2 hours and 15 minutes. Alright, another example, 2 hour 25 minutes, and you minus 1 hour 20. So this is easy to subtract. So you subtract the minutes, so you get 5. All right, and then you subtract the hours, so there'll be 1 hour and 5 minutes. Okay, now the problem comes when you find that you cannot subtract. All right, for example, 3 hour 20, and you minus 1 hour 25. All right, now, so this problem comes when you find that you can't subtract the minutes. And the common mistakes that that students will make is this what they do. All right, so I'm going to show you the wrong way of doing, and you don't do the wrong way. So you borrow as usual, all right? You borrow and then you lend. So this is 1. And then you realize that 1 cannot minus 2. And then you borrow from the hour. And immediately when you do that, that is wrong already. All right, why? Why you can't do this? Because your 1 hour is not 100 minutes. If it's 100 minutes, then you can do that. All right, you can borrow from the hour in this way. But because your 1 hour is 60 minutes, you have to do it in a different way. All right, so I'm going to show you the correct way of subtraction. So let me just erase all this and let's do the correct way. Okay, so you have 3 hours 20 and you minus 1 hour 25 minutes. So 20 minutes cannot minus 25 minutes. So you borrow immediately, you borrow 1 hour. Instead of waiting later on, then you borrow. So once you know that 20 cannot minus 25, so you borrow 1 hour, and the 1 hour become 60 minutes. And then the 60 minutes plus the 20, you will get 80 minutes now. So this is how you borrow. Okay, this is how you borrow if you don't have enough. All right, so then now you can do your you borrow 10. All right, this 0 cannot minus 5, so you borrow from 8. 8 becomes 7, and then 10 minus 5, you get 5. 7 minus 2 is 5, and then 2 hour minus 1 hour, you get 1 hour left. So you have 1 hour and 55 minutes. Okay, let's do another example, right, to make sure that you know how to borrow 1 hour. So 5 hour 30 minutes, and you minus 2 hour and 50 minutes. So you can see that 30 cannot minus 50. So immediately, all right, you don't wait until later, right? Immediately, you take out 1 hour, so you have 4 hours left, and the 1 hour becomes 60. 60 plus 30, so that will give you 90 minutes already. Then 90 minus 50, and you get 40 minutes. Then 4 hours minus 2 hours, you get 2 hours. So what is the answer? 2 hours and 40 minutes. All right, so hopefully by now you know how to add and how to subtract duration. This is called duration. What is duration? It means how many hours and how many minutes. Okay, let's go to the second part. Okay, now the second part is quite important because you need to draw the timeline. So I like to call it one of the methods that we use to solve time problems, which is to draw the timeline. Alright, so Jack spent 35 minutes bathing. He came out of the bathroom at 8:05 p.m. So what time did he start bathing? So you have a timeline, alright, and the beginning of the timeline is your start time, and the end of the timeline is your finishing time or your end time. Alright, your end time, start time and ending time. So you're supposed to find what time he start bathing. So on your timeline, you can also put the question mark. Alright, and he spent 35 minutes to bath. So what you do is you need to jump back, right? Jump back 35 minutes. So how do you jump back? Now, to jump back 35 minutes, okay, let me just jump. Alright, jump. You want to jump back 35 minutes, which is to minus. Jump back means to minus. So it's going to be quite hard for a primary 3 student to try to work backwards 35 minutes. So what I will suggest is you get your nearest hour. So what's the nearest hour? Which is 8 p.m. Alright, nearest hour means there's no minutes. There's no minutes, it's only hour. So 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, that is your nearest hour. So what's the nearest hour? Which is 8 p.m. And if you jump back, you will have to jump back 5 minutes first. Then you need to jump back another 30 minutes. So you minus 30 minutes, and you can see it's a bit easier to get the starting time. So you go back 30 minutes, that will be 7:30 p.m. So what time did he start bathing? So your answer will be 7:30. So this is a very simple timeline that you should have learned at primary 3. So let's look at a few more examples. Alright, now the test will start at 8:40. So that is your start time. It will last for 1 hour 30 minutes. So what time will the test end? So your timeline has a start time and end time. So start time is 8:40 a.m. and what time will the test end? So that's your question mark. So you need to jump one big jump. Okay, now when you do your timeline, you cannot be having one big jump. Alright, you need to jump a few small steps to get the answer. So we're going to jump a few small steps. Alright, now I can get my nearest hour. Alright, there are different ways to jump. So I can get my nearest hour. So let me use the blue color. And my nearest hour is 9 a.m. Okay, 9 o'clock. Alright, that is your nearest hour. And how many minutes do you jump? You jump 20. Okay, 20 minutes. Alright, then you can see that I need to jump 1 hour. So you just have a big jump. Alright, that is 1 hour. And what time would that be? That will be nearest hour 10 a.m. Alright, 9 a.m. plus 1 hour later, that will be 10 a.m. And then you can see that I have to jump 30 minutes. I have already jumped 20. So I need to jump another 10. So you plus 10. So what time did the test end? 10 o'clock plus 10 minutes later, the test ended at 10 a.m. Okay, so you can see that using the timeline is very efficient. It helps you to break down the duration, and then you can easily work out the answer. So use a timeline when you see time problems. Okay, another example. The movie started at 8:50 p.m. It ended at 11:05 p.m. How long was the movie? So you're asked to find the duration. So you have a start time again. This is your 8:50 p.m. and this is your 11:05 p.m. So you're supposed to know what is the duration. So question mark. So your question mark can be anywhere on the timeline. It can be at the start time, at the end time, or even it can be at the duration. Alright, you can be trying to find the duration. Alright, so how do we find the duration? Now you can jump. Alright, you can immediately jump 1 hour if you want. Alright, so you jump 1 hour, that will be 9:50. Okay, 9:50 p.m. So you jump 1 hour. Okay, and then you jump another 1 hour, so that will be 10:50 p.m. and then you jump then what do you do? Then you don't want to jump 1 hour, right? If you jump another 1 hour, it'll be 11:50. Alright, let me just make it a bit nicer. Okay, let me just have a bigger jump for that 1 hour. So I'm going to draw a bigger jump. So there'll be plus 1 hour, which is now 10:50. Right, 10:50 p.m. Alright, then from 10:50 to 11:05. So how many minutes would that be? So 10:50 to 11:05. So from 10:50 to 11, that will be 10 minutes. Then 10 minutes plus another 5 more, that will be 15. So you have to jump another 15 minutes to get 11:05. So that's how you make small jumps. So timeline is not making one big jump, right? When you make one big jump to get your answer, that is not quite correct. You're supposed to make small jumps, right? Small jumps to work out the answer. So how many hours and how many minutes? So 1 hour, 2 hour, and 15 minutes. So the duration is 2 hours and 15 minutes. All right, that is how long the movie lasted. Okay, all right, so let's now go to the next part of the lesson. All right, so now we come to the primary 4 24-hour time formats. So at primary 3, you learn to look at the 12-hour clock. But at primary 4, you need to learn how to look at 24-hour clock. All right, so this is a part where students get very confused because they don't know how to switch from 12-hour to 24-hour and vice versa. Okay, so let's start with the 12-hour clock first. Now, midnight. Midnight means 12 a.m. Okay, 12 a.m. Start of a new day. So your new day doesn't start when you wake up to go to school. Your new day starts when it's midnight. Right, while you are getting ready to sleep, it is going to be the start of a new day, the darkest of the night. All right, so that is a new day. So when the new day starts, it's at 12 a.m. and then after that 1 a.m. still midnight. But if you look at the unit sign, it's morning. So it's quite so you're sleeping at night, midnight, 1 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 a.m., 1 a.m. and then 2 a.m., 3 a.m. and then you can see that it's still morning, even though you think that you are sleeping at night, but actually it's morning time. All right, so 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 3 a.m., 6 a.m. you wake up, it's morning, right? It's still morning. So your morning starts when it's at 12 a.m. okay, at the darkest of the night. Okay, now what is noontime? Noontime is afternoon, where the sun is the brightest. Okay, in science, the sun is the highest, right, at the highest position at noon, which is at 12 p.m. And then, so once you see the word p.m., right, it means that afternoon. All right, and then so you have 10 a.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m., and then back to midnight again. So when you go back to midnight, it is the start of a new day again. So that's a new day. All right, that's morning. All right, so how about the 24-hour clock? Okay, now if you look at 12 a.m., which is midnight, how do you represent 12 a.m. in the 24-hour clock? It's the start of a new day. Remember, start of a new morning. So 0, 0, 0, 0. It's like your stopwatch, right? You start at 0 first, right? And then when it becomes 1 a.m., so what's the 24-hour clock? That'll be 0, 100. Okay, now something to take note over here for the 24-hour clock. If it's morning, you can see that there are zeros. There's a 0 in front. Okay, there's a 0 in front. Okay, so if it's morning, what happens is you will see a 0. Okay, and not only that, for the 24-hour clock, you always have 4-digit numbers. All right, so you have the hours on the left side, right? The hours on the left side and the minutes on the right side. So you have 4-digit numbers. So when you write your 24-hour clock, it must have 4 digits. So on the left side is the hour, and then on the right side is the minutes. So if it's morning, you can see that there's a 0 there. And sometimes you don't see a 0. Like for example, 11 a.m., there's no 0 in front, but there's a 1. Okay, so how to not get confused? Very easy. Now, to convert to 24-hour clock, right? So how do you recognize whether is it morning or whether is it afternoon or night? You look at the hour. If you see that there's a 11 and there's a 0 in front, or there's a 11, all right, then that is morning. Okay, then how do you know it's afternoon? When the hour turns to 12. Okay, when you see the 12, then that is afternoon. All right, so your 24-hour clock, when there's a 12 and bigger, right, 12 and greater, then it's afternoon time. But if the hour, right, the 24-hour clock, the first 2 digits, if it's less than 12, right, if it's less than 12, the first 2 digits, then what happened? Then that is morning. Okay, all right, so you continue going, look at the timeline. You can see that after 12 p.m., you have 1300, which is afternoon, right? So what is the 12-hour clock? That is your 1 p.m. All right, so your 1300 is 1 p.m. So how do you get 1 p.m.? All right, we will look at that later. But right now, you need to understand how the 24-hour clock looks like. And then 10 p.m., which is your 12-hour clock, what is the 24-hour clock? That will be, okay, that will be how many? That will be 2200. Okay, 2200. All right, don't worry about how you get all these numbers. You will see later. But you need to know that when the first 2 digits in the 24-hour clock is 12 and bigger, all right, the first 2 digits is 12 and bigger, then is it morning or afternoon or night? It is PM. All right, it's PM. All right, is it AM or PM? So if the first 2 digits is 12 and bigger, it has to be PM. And then 2300, is it, if you convert to 12-hour clock, is it AM or PM? PM, because the first 2 digits is 12 and bigger. All right, so what is the 12-hour clock for 2300? That will be That'll be 11 p.m. All right, not a.m., but it's p.m. All right, and then you have 0000, and you can see that the first two digit is less than 12, so that is morning, the start of a new day. All right, so let's recap one more time because it's important to know how to differentiate between AM or PM before you can go on. So you always look at the first two digits, all right, in your 24-hour clock. So in the 24-hour clock, you can see that there are 4 digits usually, and you have hours on the left side. All right, if you look at what I'm doing, you can see the hours on the left side, and you can see the minutes on the right side. Okay, the minutes. So the hours on the left side, the minutes on the right side. All right, so that's how you differentiate, right? The hours and the minutes, and then you look at the hours, and if you see that the numbers or the 2 digits right in front, if you see that is less than 12, right? For example, 00, 01, 11, all these are less than 12. So that is AM. Okay, that's AM. If you see that is 12 and bigger, right? Can you see 12, 13, 21? All right, 12, 13. All right, 12, 13, 21, 22. All these are 12 and bigger. Then that is PM already. Okay, all right, that's how you differentiate the 24-hour, all right, the AM and the PM, how you recognize. Okay, now let's go to how we convert the 12-hour clock into 24-hour clock. All right, so it's quite easy, very easy. Now, so if you look at this AM, 3:10 AM, this is a 12-hour clock. So if it's morning and it's 3:10 AM, then how do we change it into 24-hour clock? Remember, your 24-hour clock must have 4 digits. So right now, I only see 3 digits, which is 3, 1, and 0, right? So, but your 24-hour clock must have 4 digits, and it's AM. So I put a 0 in front, and then I put a 3, which is the hour. Remember, the first 2 digits has to be the hour, and the last 2 digits will be the minutes. So 0310. How about 8:26 AM? Again, there's an AM there, and there are 3 digits also in this 12-hour time. So I put a 0 in front because AM, you can put a 0 in front. And because your 24-hour clock must have 4 digits, so you have the hours, which is 08, and then what's the minutes? 26. So 08:26. All right, now you come to another one. You have 4 digits in your 12-hour time. So do I need to put a 0 in front? No, you don't put a 0 in front. If you put a 0 in front, what happened? You have 5 digits, which is wrong. So there's no need to put a 0 in front, even though it's AM. Then what do? You just write 11, which is the hour, and then the minutes, 59. So 11:59. And when you write your 24-hour clock, do leave a space, right? A space in between to separate the hours and the minutes. All right, now 12 AM. All right, 12 AM. AM is morning, right? So if you are going to write 1200, then that's wrong already. Because why? AM is morning, right? And morning. So if the first 2 digit is 12 and bigger, that will be PM already. So which means that this answer is wrong. So it's a start of a new day. So if it's a start of a new day, morning, right? The hour is 00. And the minutes is also 00. That is a start of a new day, or you call it midnight. All right, this is midnight. Okay, so every time you see 12 AM is a start of a new day, so 0000. You start from 0. All right, now 7:40 PM. Now you have PM already, right? So what do? Do we put a 0 in front? The moment you put a 0 in front, that becomes AM, your 7:40 AM, right? So, but this is PM. So what do? You just do something very easy. Just add 12 to the hour. So 12 plus 7, that will be 1940. 1940, right? Okay, next one, 12:10 PM. You see a PM there. So what do? You add. Do you add 12 over here? No. Because why? Because the biggest 24-hour time is what? 2, 3, 5, 9. That's the biggest time, which means that you cannot go bigger than that. So your 24-hour time cannot have 24 and bigger, all right? Cannot be 2400. So the biggest time is 2359. So which means that if I add 12, what happens? It becomes 24 already. So what do? I would write 12 and 10. All right, 12 and 10. Okay, let me just. Okay, so you have 12, 10. So that is how you convert to 24-hour time. All right, PM. PM is what? PM is your first two digit has to be 12 and bigger. Remember, if it's PM, when you convert to 24-hour time, the first two digit must be 12 and bigger. So your first two digits will be 12, and then the minutes will be 10. So 12, 10. Right? So don't add 12 to 12. Otherwise, you get 24. Because the biggest number in your 24-hour clock is 2359. And what is 2359? What is the 12-hour time? The 12-hour time is 11:59 p.m. before it becomes morning again. Right? So that is your latest time before you start a new day. Alright, the latest time. Okay, let's go to another one. 10:10 p.m. Now 10:10 p.m. And if it's a p.m., you have to add 12, right? 12 to the hour. So 12 plus 10, you will get 22, right? And then the minutes will still be the same. So 22, 10. All right, so 12 p.m. How about this 12 p.m.? All right, 12 p.m. Do I add 12? Right, because it's p.m., right? So do I add 12? No, you can't. If you add 12, it becomes 24 again. Then what do? Then you just leave it alone, which is still 12, right? 12. So 12, and the minutes is 0, 0. So what is a 24-hour time? 1200. Okay? All right, so if you are still confused, then you should play back the video and watch it again until you start to begin to understand. All right, because you need to understand all this before you can move on to draw timeline. All right, so let's now go to timeline. Oh, not timeline. Okay, now let's now go to how do we convert 24-hour back to 12-hour clock. All right, so how do we convert back? Now, 0412. So what is the 12-hour time? You can see there's a 0 in front. So that's morning. So morning means for 12 a.m. Alright, a.m. Right, that's morning. Alright, so if you see a 0 in front, then that's a.m. already. Alright, how about 0015? There's a 0 in front. So that would be 12, right? 12, 15 a.m. Alright, why 12? Because remember your start of a new day is 0, 0, 0, 0, right? That is the start of a new day. And what is the 12-hour time? 12, remember? 12 a.m. Right? So this is the start of a new day. So you have the 24-hour clock and you have the 12-hour clock, right? So what happened is, if it's the start of a new day, then how do you write the 12-hour time? That will be 12, right? 0, 0 is 12, and then 15 a.m. Okay, let's go on some more, okay? Now, how about 0, 0, 0, 0? That's the start of a new day, which is midnight. So that'll be 12 a.m., right? It's midnight, start of a new day. All right, now there's a 0 in front, so that's morning. So that should be 7:25 a.m., right? A.m. is morning. So if you see a 0 in front, then that's morning. How about 23:16? If you look at the first two digit, which is the hour, is 12 and bigger, then it has to be PM already, right? PM. So how do you go back to 12-hour time? You minus 12, right? So you work backwards. Minus 12, and you will get 11:16 PM. All right. Earlier on, how do we change from 12-hour to 24-hour? You take the 11, then you plus 12 to get 23. So now you work backwards. So you minus 12. How about 1750, which is 12 and bigger, right? You look at the hour, that is 12 and bigger. So you minus 12 to get back your 12-hour time. So 17 minus 12 is 550. And because it's 12 and bigger, right, the 17 is 12 and bigger, so that is PM. So 5:50 PM. All right, last two. How about 2030? Now, you look at the first two digit, is 12 and bigger, so it's PM, right, PM. And if it's PM, how do you change back to 12-hour time? You take 20, work backwards, minus 12, and you get 8:30 PM. All right, next one. Look at the 22:45. The 22 is 12 and bigger, so is PM, and you work backwards. 22 minus 12, and you get 9:45 p.m. Alright, so that's how you change 12-hour time to 24-hour time, and then 24-hour time back to 12-hour time. So if you're still confused, then you can always play back the video and watch it again until you begin to understand. Because if you can't understand, then you will not be able to do this. Alright, you need to know how to convert, right, before you can draw out the timeline. Okay, let's look at the first problem. How do we draw a timeline? Now, Mr. Tan drove his car from his home to his friend's house. He left his house at 21:45. He arrived at his friend's house at 03:10 or 03:10 the next day. How long was the journey? So you're asked to find the duration. Now, why do we need to know how to convert 12-hour to 24-hour and vice versa? Alright, this is the reason why. Now, if you are confused or if you are not good with working with 24-hour clock, then what should you do? You should convert the 24-hour clock into 12-hour clock, and then it becomes a primary tree problem. For example, 21:45, right? What is the 12-hour time? That is, the 21 is 12 and bigger, so it has to be PM, right? PM. So 21 minus 12, that will be 9:45 PM. So I'm going to use this time to draw the timeline. And then he arrived at 03:10. So what's the 12-hour time? So the 12-hour time is AM because there's a 0 in front. So it's 3:10 AM. So I'm going to use this time for my timeline. So now the whole question becomes a 12-hour clock. Right? It becomes a 12-hour format. Alright. Okay, so now let's draw the timeline. So when it becomes a 12-hour format, it's actually easier to solve. Alright, because you don't get so confused by the 24-hour time. So my advice is this. Right, if you have 24-hour clock, you change it to 12-hour clock. Alright, so you have 9:45 PM, and then now you have 3:10 AM. So what's the duration? So from here to there, how long was the journey? So what do? You do the same thing as what you did earlier on. You can jump, right? You can get the nearest hour. Okay, what's the nearest hour? Which is 10 PM, and you make one small jump. That will be 15, right? 15 minutes to get 10 PM. Then over here, you can also get your nearest hour, which is 3 PM, and that will be 10 minutes later, right? And then from 10 PM to 3 PM, how many hours? So that will be 5 hours. Okay, so how long was the journey? And you can see 15 minutes plus 5 hours plus 10 minutes. So the duration, how long was the journey? 5 hours, 15 plus 10, that will be 25 minutes. So the journey was 5 hours, 25 minutes. So what's the lesson here? Now the lesson here is 24-hour clock can be quite confusing. So you may want to change the 24-hour clock into 12-hour time, and then use the 12-hour time to work out the answer. And then if the question wants you to write your answer in 24-hour clock, then you change your answer back into 24-hour clock. Okay? Alright, let me give an example, alright, if you are confused over what I'm saying. Okay, let's look at number 2, alright, another example. Now, Mr. Ong's flight left Changi Airport at 11:40. So I want to use 12-hour time. So I changed the 11:40 into 12-hour time. Now the 11, right, if you look at the 11:40, the 11 is 12 and lesser, right? Or is less than 12. So it has to be morning because the 11 is less than 12. So what time is that? It will be 11:40 AM. Right? Why AM? Because the 11 over here is less than 12. So it's AM. Right? Okay. It arrived at the Hong Kong 3 hours 15 minutes later. So what time did the flight arrive at Hong Kong? Alright, so I'm going to use my timeline again. Alright, and my timeline will be in 12-hour time. So 11:40 AM. Alright, and the flight took 3 hours 15 minutes. So plus 3 hours and 15 minutes. So what time did the flight arrive in Hong Kong? Alright, so what do? There are so many ways to do it. I can get my nearest hour, which is 12 AM, and this will be 20 minutes. right? Oh, 12 p.m. Okay, not a.m. because 11:40 a.m. and then after that, what happens? Then after morning becomes afternoon, so it should be 12 p.m. Right? So 11:40 a.m. then plus 20 minutes later, that will be 12 p.m. All right, so be very careful. Right? It's not 12 a.m. All right. Then after that, you add 3 hours. All right, 3 hours, and you will get 3 p.m. Alright, now you can see that okay, now you can see that we actually overshot, right? Overshot because this is 20, this is 15. So we actually overshot. So which means that we need to do something, right? So we may need to make some adjustment, but I think Mr. will want to erase everything, alright, so that we can try again because we overshot already. Alright, so let's try again, alright? So sometimes when you draw a timeline, you may have something like this. So what do? Then you just adjust or you just redraw, alright? So that you don't get yourself confused and you don't get the wrong answer. Okay, one more time. So let's draw a timeline. So you have 11:40 a.m. and it arrived at Hong Kong 3 hours and 15 minutes later. Okay, so what time did it arrive at Hong Kong? Alright, what I did just now was to get the nearest hour. Alright, now if you find that you overshot, okay, then what do? You can also do it in a different way. You can also do this. You jump 3 hours. Right, you can also jump 3 hours. So you jump 1 hour. Alright, 1 hour. That will be 12:40. Alright, 12:40 p.m. You jump another 1 hour. That will be 1:40 p.m. Then you jump another 1 hour. That will be 2:40 p.m. Am I correct? So you have 3 hours already, alright? So 3 hours later is 2:40 p.m. Alright, so then you need to jump another 15 minutes. Alright, so how to jump 15 minutes? So you jump, you plus 15. And what time did the flight arrive at Hong Kong? So 2:40 plus 15, you take 40, which is the minutes, plus 15, that will be 55. So the flight arrived in Hong Kong at 2:55 p.m. So that's your answer. Okay, so what I have done is I jump in hours, means you jump the hours. Alright, but earlier on, you find your nearest hour, but then you realize that you overshot. So never mind, you can always adjust again. So you jump the hours, and you jump the hours, and you can get your answer as well. Okay, let's go to number 3. Okay, number 3. Now, Jenny went to the library at 12:15. So I changed it to 12 hour time. So 12 is 12 and bigger. So that's PM, and your 12 hour time is 12:15 p.m. And she spent 1.5 hours at the library, and then she went for the piano lesson. And if the piano lesson ended at 14:30, so let's change that into 12 hour time. 14 is 12 and bigger, so that will be PM, right? And what time is that? You take 14, you work backwards, you minus 12, and you will get 2:30 p.m. Alright, so you're going to use the 12 hour time to draw the timeline. So you draw a timeline. So how long was the piano lesson? So she went to the library at 12:15 p.m. and she spent 1.5 hours at the library. Okay, so you jump 1 hour. Okay, 1 hour, and that will be 1:15, right? 1:15 p.m. Then you jump 30 minutes. Half an hour is 30 minutes, and that will be what time? 1:45 p.m. All right. So after 1.5 hour, then what happens? She went for her piano lesson, which is at 1:45 p.m. And then if the piano lesson ends at 14:30, all right. So let me just draw the timeline a little longer so that we don't have to squeeze. All right. So the piano lesson started at 1:45 p.m. right, and it ended at 14:30 or 2:30 p.m. Oh, actually, we don't need a long timeline, okay? All right, so anyway, let's continue. So 1:45 p.m. to 2:30 p.m., how long? How long is the duration? So you get your nearest hour, which is 2 p.m. So from 1:45 p.m. to 2 p.m., that is 15 minutes. Then from 2 p.m. to 2:30, that will be another 30 minutes. So how long was the piano lesson? So 15 plus 30. So the piano lesson is 45 minutes, right? So 15 plus 30. So answer 45 minutes. Okay? Alright, so that's how you do the 12-hour time and the 24-hour time. So the idea, alright, the whole advice, my advice is when you come across 24-hour clock, if there's a word problem and it's a 24-hour clock, then you change it to 12-hour clock, right? And then you use the 12-hour clock to work out the answer. And if the question wants you to write your answer in 24-hour format, then what do you do with the answer that you have over here? Then you just change back into 24-hour clock, right? For example, 2:55 p.m. For example, if the question asks you write your answer in 24-hour format, then what do? I just get the answer and change back. All right, change back to 24-hour format. And what's the answer in 24-hour format? PM, right? PM means is 12 and bigger, right? So you add 12 to 2, and you get 14:55. So that is your 24-hour answer. Okay? Alright, so we come to the end of this lesson on time. The next lesson will be, we are soon coming to Primary 5 concept lessons. So the next lesson will be doing a different topic. Alright, so hopefully at the end of this lesson, you have a better understanding on how to do time. Alright, okay, so I'll see you in the next lesson.